Things about your coming over here is I'm able to ask you all of these questions because for a lot of years I thought a turducken was some sort of a foul crossbreed, but it's not.
Well,
it's just three different things.
Yeah. Well, it's really 5 different things. It's a chicken, a duck, a turkey, and 2 kinds of dressings.
And are you going to have one on your Thanksgiving table?
Yeah, I'm going to have one. I have to bring it though, but because here's a picture of one.
Turducken.
Yeah,
picture. That is it.
And you see, you cut it like right down here. See, and then this is what it looks like inside. See, so you got turkey, then duck, and then dressing, and then chicken.
Oh,
and then you just have to do it that way, or if any of that makes sense.
Now, can I get some hoisin sauce with that? That's unbelievable.
The first time I ever had one of these, I ate it with my fingers, and then I had to shake hands, and I didn't know whether
stay away from me. 2nd and 7. That pass is in.
He gets open for 3. Dagger!
The kick in, here it comes. Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions.
You like that? You like that? I like that.
You gotta like that, right? My approval ratings keep going up.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Welcome in. This is Defeating the Curse. So many topics on the docket for today. We got a long list of topics to run through. Me and Stevie are gonna we have a full slate of things to discuss, Stevie. My name is Joe. His name is Stevie. I'm on mic 1. He's on mic 2. The lead story here from the jump, Stevie. I mean, there's a lot in DC we got to talk about. There's a lot of national stories too that I want to touch on. The last 24 hours, 36 hours, in and around across the country really have been tremendous. I mean, we lost I think one of your heroes in Harry Reid passed in the last 24 hours. We lost Montez Sweat lost his brother. I don't know if you saw this story. I've been reading about it. Kind of crazy. Terrible news there as well. And we'll talk about the football team in particular in a couple minutes here. But I think we got to start with that opening clip, the John Madden clip, the infamous turducken clip. John Madden passed away. The special that ran over the weekend on Christmas Day. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it or not, Stevie, but it's if you haven't, it's definitely worth the time. It's a special look at 25, 30 years of John Madden. But I think it's incredible when you think about the impact that he as one individual has had over several generations of football fans, right? I mean, we aren't old enough to remember him as the football coach. We are definitely old enough to remember him, and he is synonymous with Monday Night Football. With before that, he was on the Fox broadcast with Pat Summerall. Eventually, he went over to the ABC broadcast or the Monday Night Football broadcast with Al Michaels. Those are my first memories, like real memories of John Madden. And then obviously in the early 90s, Sega Genesis comes around and Madden Football, Madden 92, 93, 94. And here we are. I think you and I played Madden all the way through the 20th anniversary.
Last week.
Oh, yeah. You're still playing. That's right. I've moved over to FIFA at this point. But Stevie, I mean, it's impossible to, and by the way, that clip, if you didn't see it in person, I'll post it to social media, DTC social media, because what happens in that clip is Al Michaels is asking him what a turducken is. And John is going through like there's a game going on. He doesn't even care. He's going through the turducken layers, and they literally hand him one in the booth, and he is prying into it with his bare hands. And Al Michaels he's like very visibly distraught over how John Madden just manhandling this turducken. There won't be another John Madden, but I mean, for me, his voice is synonymous with Monday Night Football in particular. For me, I actually remember when he retired. And Al Michaels basically going to ABC and saying, "Hey, can you let me out so I can do Monday Night Football?" At the time, it moved over to NBC or Sunday Night Football, whatever it was. But regardless, Stevie, I mean, John Madden is synonymous with many things. For me, he's the broadcaster. Do you see him, or do you think of him more as the broadcaster or the video game personality?
Well, it's funny because we're kind of in that middle age group, right? The kind of sweet spot where the people older than us and we're in our mid 30s, the people older than us will see him as a Hall of Fame coach, right? And so these are, the people that watched him coach the Raiders to a Super Bowl, in the 70s and, take on the Steelers and, look at him like that. The people younger than us will solely know him as the Madden guy and kind of the face of the franchise. We're in that sweet spot where we see him as the broadcaster, but really across all three levels. If you really think about it, there's been a lot of talk about John Madden these last 24 hours. I haven't really heard people talk about him as a pioneer. And it's funny, it didn't seem like it, but if you look at, especially as a broadcaster, I mean, you look at the guys now, Collinsworth, Romo, even what Peyton Manning and his brother are doing, Al Michael, Al was with him, but you look at these Collinsworth, Romo type guys, and they are just copycats of John Madden. Madden was the first telestrator guy, right? He'd say, you got your running back here, your football, that was Madden, right? So he was he would break down the X's and O's better than everyone, right?
Well,
before that, you had Howard Cosell just calling the game.
You're talking about the broadcast. He's also the first guy to do the boom, right? And the boom thing and the sound effects and
exactly.
Like
that's your Sports Center.
We grew up on a generation of like Sports Center with Stuart Scott, right? R.I.P. Stuart Scott, the best to ever do it, right? But all those Stuart Scott isms, as cool as the other side is the pillow and the even with Boomer's still doing it, right? On ESPN Plus, he's still doing prime time with the yeah. I mean, he does it for baseball. Like all of that really does start with John Madden. Like he was the first color commentator to actually inject color into the broadcast, and he did it from a position of like really understanding football because he was a coach, and his teams. I mean, again, like I could probably talk about him for a solid hour just on the things I remember, of him. But at one point during his coaching tenure, he was, I believe, he won 3 out of every 4 games. I mean, he was not just an average coach who became a great announcer or commentator. He excelled as a coach, and then he was the best as an announcer, and then he became the again synonymous with the 100 million copies of a game with his name on it has been sold over the past X number of years, 22 years or whatever it is now. I mean, that's incredible, Stevie. I mean, his name is synonymous with success, and his voice is synonymous with, to me anyway, Thanksgiving football. Like Lions playing, whether they're good or bad, the Lions playing on Thanksgiving on Fox and John Madden calling a game, like it's just ingrained in me. I don't know how else to describe it. Like it's some of my earliest and fondest memories of football, and he's part of them. And to hear about his passing was tough. I mean, it was tough. I mean, it's not like we knew him, and he certainly hasn't been around the game for the past several years. But, one thought that I kind of shared yesterday on with some people we were chatting when the news broke, there's an entire generation of football players today, like you said, in the NFL that grew up playing Madden, learned the game of football playing video games, and got drafted into the NFL and are probably on their way out of the NFL at this point. They're on the second half of their career as well. It's incredible. Like one person being that just ingrained in football.
Well, you can't compare him. I know I just did with the, Aikman's, Collinsworth, Romo guys, but the thing with Madden and, his partner, Pat Summerall, rest in peace as well, you knew when they were on the call, it was a big game. Now you'll get Aikman and Buck on some crappy Thursday night game because they got nothing better to do. You'll get, what's his name, Romo and Greg, whatever, on some crappy CBS game, but Madden and Michaels, Madden and Summerall, anytime you heard that voice, you knew this was the game of the week. There was no, I mean, I think a lot of the same things will be said for, Al Michaels is a legend in that broadcasting realm as well.
I think Joe Buck is on that path as well. I really do. I think Romo's got a long way to go, but he's probably going to be set up in the same way. And frankly, given the climate, I mean, Eli and Peyton are not to that level, but they could probably get there. Peyton definitely can get there. And those like the shows on ESPN, like Detail. I don't know if you ever got into those, but like I remember listening to Kobe break down like the most mundane, like lob pass into the post. And it's like, wow, like when you live a sport like this and you play it, you're just gonna have different insights that nobody else is gonna have, whether it's the rando commentators or broadcasters or even fans. Like, you're just not gonna know it the way a professional knew it. And again, like at the time, I remember hearing for the first time, or probably wasn't the first time. I definitely remember the last call. The last time, because I went back and looked it up, the last time that John Madden referenced a 4-point tackle. Do you remember him talking about 4-point tackles? This to me is like, it's just like, I can quote it verbatim. It was Ray Lewis. I think it was one of his last broadcasts. And Ray Lewis it was like a 3rd and goal situation or whatever. And he tackled somebody. And John Madden made this reference to Ray Lewis just had a 4-point tackle. And I remember at the time thinking that is the wackiest way to describe it. But here we are, 15 years later, whatever it is. And it's a perfect way to describe it. And it's been used ever since, right? The 4-point tackle, right? The defense stopped the offense from scoring 7. They're going to settle for 3. Thus, according to John Madden, it's a 4-point tackle. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And that's a coach. That's a coaching ism, right? That's not a broadcasting. That's something that he probably has been saying since his time as a coach. And it just came out on the air.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny that, you mentioned those shows like Detail and Man in the Arena with Brady and, whatever they're doing there. You just strip away all the bells and whistles of those shows, and it's what Madden pioneered. I mean, I will never forget. And again, John Madden plus Joe Gibbs, Washington Redskins football, early 90s was a match made in heaven, because John Madden, and through his games afterwards, taught me what a counter trap is, to see these offensive linemen pulling. Joe Gibbs mastered that, but like, that's how I learned. That's incredible. The guy, is going to the left side and you got this right guard pulling. That's amazing. And Madden would circle it and show you how they would get the defense going one way, move to the other side. And so that stuff is ingrained inside of you. And so his legacy, which is why, when a person like that passes away, you conjure up those great memories, and I didn't watch I caught a little bit of the special All Madden on Christmas, but I heard it's phenomenal. I can't wait to watch it. And it's pretty serendipitous that it all went down a few days before he passed.
A few days later. Yeah. I mean, they recorded that back over the summer, if I'm not mistaken, but it's worth watching. I mean, I watched it. FS1 and FS2 are running it back. So, I mean, if you haven't caught it yet, I think your YouTube TV, right? And no free plugs, but I think your YouTube TV. Yeah, I mean, set a recording for it, because it's worth it.
Well, I mean, I'm YouTube TV as long as ESPN and them are not in a fight.
Yo, man, that was almost the end of the world. Like, there isn't much that we care about, but I mean, you can't tell me that ESPN is moving off your platform and then expect me to stay.
Yeah, can someone explain to YouTube TV? They have zero leverage here. Like, can anyone? They should pay whatever amount ESPN wants.
Well, it's actually the opposite. I think they have all the leverage. Like, because where are you going to go? Fubo TV or Pluto or?
I'll find something
somewhere. Exactly.
We're
going to end up in
the
dark web of Reddit. We're going to start in Reddit and end up in the dark web looking for illegal hacks and streams.
Justin TV or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Front Row Sports. I mean, they're all over the place, but I don't want to watch TV. I mean, you know how annoying it is for years to try to watch a Nats game without Masson?
Without Masson, yeah.
Like, we can't do that with ESPN. Like, that's nonsense, but whatever. Crisis averted on that regard. Yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, I could probably talk about the impact of Madden forever. But seriously, when was the last time you actually played Madden? I have a feeling you've got it.
I'm not kidding. Last night.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time you and Razzle used to camp out. I mean, we're not doing that anymore.
Those are the good old days. I mean, you're getting everything online now.
Yeah, see, but the kids today will never understand. They'll never understand the hype of going to stand at GameStop or EB Games at at 11 o'clock, just getting in the queue so you can buy a game at midnight.
The pizza parties, and then you sit inside EA Games or playing Madden with these random high school kids.
If I'm not mistaken, I definitely remember you and him going. I think you had gotten your first job out of school, and he was still in school, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a year or two behind us. But I remember you. I vividly remember you actually calling out for like 3 days after that, because the games used to launch music. So this is going to age us a little bit, but all the new music and CD releases and movie releases and video game releases, they always happened on a Tuesday, always. So, right, you would camp out on a Monday night, you get the game at Tuesday at midnight, and then it was kind of expected, like the day after the Madden drop, like nobody went to work on Wednesdays. And I don't know if that still happens, but I vividly remember at some point in our early-ish 20s clearing the schedule basically in just 2 or 3 days of just not moving and hand cramps and eyeballs that were bleeding because it was just never ending. And you got into head coach for a while too. I think that had Madden's name on it, didn't it?
It must. I think it was an EA
that was
game.
a terrible game.
Maybe it was
that was trash.
terrible game. Terrible game. I mean,
you were pacing around the basement with your headset on, calling plays.
There was a solid movement there in the late 90s to move the Madden release to make it a holiday, like a day off. Okay. Like it was close to like the Juneteenth stuff that they had going for a while. Okay. Like they were, I'm saying, I'm not likening the importance of it. I'm just saying that it was close to being a public holiday.
Well, because, you know, if you were under 25 and male, you weren't working for several days after it. Right. You try running a business where your entire workforce just says, I'm out. I have to go play video games for the next couple of days.
The number of things, and I know this is going to make us sound like grumpy old men, but like you said, like the kids these days will never know the discs. Like what in society right now has improved? Literally nothing. The kids these days, they totally got hosed. Everything about society sucks. Look, I'm sitting here with COVID.
Do you have COVID or do you have the common cold known as Omicron?
I have Omicold is what they call it. Okay.
Whatever.
Quite a well-known epidemiologist calls it that.
At what point can we just let everybody get it and move on?
Hey, if anybody wants it, they show up at my doorstep.
Yeah. I mean, what are you eating over there too, by the way? You're going to town on something over there.
Are we plugging stuff? Okay. I'm eating the best sandwich from a place in Northern Virginia. It's called the Sandwich Shop, Church Street, Vienna. The best sandwiches in town. Everyone needs to check it out.
You're talking as if it hasn't been there for 40 years.
I'm just saying.
Did you just find it?
When I find it, that means it's brand new.
Next, are you going to tell me about this cool little pizza spot called Church's Pizza?
I think they changed their name to Lombard's Pieces. So look who's outdated and antiquated.
I mean, I don't roll. Springfield's not, or Springfield's hood now. I don't know anything about Vienna. Vienna got too fancy for me.
Vienna's big time now. Okay, I'm actually Tyson's. They gave me a city.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. Born, like 5 minutes ago or whatever it says on the sign. I drove past it. I was a little surprised. But, yeah, I mean, people don't know, Stevie. We grew up basically a block or 2 blocks away from each other. So, like, the main road in Vienna or that cuts through Vienna is 123, which is, I think, Chainbridge or Dolly Madison. I don't know. It changes names.
Maple Avenue.
Times, Maple Avenue. Maple Avenue. Maple Avenues were all like the
don't forget
the
your roots. Don't get too big time, okay? Freaking sitting in the Springfield town center.
It's not about big time. It's not about big time. I just said that they built a Whole Foods and then everything went to shit, and that's what happens. You know, Amazon came in there and set up shop, and now everything is overly commercialized in Vienna. It's the truth.
You got to go through the town of Vienna for everything. Okay, neo-Nazis and
we got a couple friends that have up close and very personal experience trying to get anything done in the town of Vienna. I don't want to talk about that.
That's another segment.
I don't want to talk about that. I think, you know, just to put a bow on the John Madden segment here, I think his presence will forever be felt. I think for EA to do anything with that franchise except to continue to make games year in and year out would be a shame. I mean, again, his name is synonymous with it. He is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think his original Madden Cruiser actually is at the Hall of Fame as well, which is really cool. He was one of the first to refuse to fly. And he
was
just
scared to fly. He didn't refuse.
He said he kind of powered through it as a coach, but as he got older, that fear, that claustrophobia got worse and worse. And the Madden Cruiser became just as synonymous with, you know, Monday Night Football as, I mean, he would do interviews in it and it would be like, I don't know. We're never going to have a guy like that again.
Who else doesn't like? I think it's Kornheiser.
Michaels travels right now.
Michaels doesn't fly. I know Kornheiser refuses to fly.
Kornheiser refused to fly as well. Kornheiser had a fear of when he was on the Monday Night broadcast. Yeah, him and the rotating cast at that time.
Dennis Miller.
Dennis Miller was on it for a while. I mean, Tirico was the man before he switched teams.
Hey, but he got into some trouble. Okay.
Well, look, Tirico belongs on a very short list of people that can call anything and make it good, right? I mean, that guy goes from golf to Olympics to soccer to World Cup to throwaway NBA games and does it really well.
Buck is on that list too.
Buck should be on that list. Buck, especially in that late October, November window where he's zigzagging between World Series games and mid-season football games. I mean, no one does it. No one does it like him, right? It's I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he's 2 sports, but that's still very impressive. But anyway, I want to switch gears here. There's no easy pivot, but let's talk about this football team, Stevie. It's
Still?
how much of the game on Sunday night did you sit through? Be honest.
No, I watched the whole thing. You can't turn your eyes from a train wreck. That's much more entertaining than a competitive football team. You want to see how bad is it going to get? And the answer is it got bad, brother. It got bad.
It's very, very bad. There's not a single thing that I can point to that you can't point to any part of Sunday night against the Cowboys and say that it went as expected or better than expected. Not a single facet of that game. And there's a couple folks, Rick Snyder most notably on Twitter, that always does like immediate grades or flash grades. And him and I were kind of trading messages back and forth. I was like, sometimes you just got to say like, insufficient effort, not worthy of grade, because F is generous to how the team played in some spurts. And I don't know. I have some thoughts on this. One, I think we all know what Taylor is and what he isn't. He's going to be a guy he's going to be appealing in some very specific circumstances. He's not your franchise guy. And at the end of the season, I think they should be looking at him and evaluating him. If he's not the number 1 backup contender, then he won't be on the roster. Like he's better than a third stringer, but he's not a starter. Kyle Allen, what a waste of a 5th round pick. He's not worth anything. I don't know why Ron insisted on bringing him here. But I mean, the only silver lining from Sunday is that he was able to complete some passes to Terry McLaurin in stride, where Terry wasn't leaping, jumping, trying to, scale the walls just to grab a ball, corral a ball. I mean, you saw a little bit of that. I mean, I think 2 completed passes in stride, but Kyle shouldn't be on this roster next year either. I think they're going to have to do something else in the quarterback, as far as the quarterback room is concerned. You've said it a couple times that you're scared about what Terry actually is. And I think I'm there with you now. I think he is, like today, as we sit here, I think Terry McLaurin on any competitive team that is in the playoffs or headed to the playoffs, he's probably not their number 1 option, right? I mean, he's a very, very good number 2. And I think he will get to level 1 or number 1 status, but I don't think he's there yet. I think the play is a little too inconsistent, and the quarterback play doesn't help him.
Yeah, I'm with you on essentially all those thoughts. I mean, everybody saw the same game. That you said. I just want to clarify, because you're talking about the Snyder messages with Rick Snyder is insufficient effort. I'm assuming that's a metaphor. You don't think it was a lack of effort? You're just saying like insufficient.
I mean, it's insufficient. Like the sample size isn't large enough to grade them. Like they are not like
well,
for the
then
game.
I disagree. Then
like
I
they are so bad. They were so bad on Sunday night that they do not place on the list of grades. Like whatever, like they didn't earn an F, right? Even an F is earned. I don't think they even earned that. Like with the SATs, right? The old joke used to be you write your name, you get 200 points. What happens if you break your pencil writing your name, right? You get no points. That's where this team is right now.
What I would say is I don't think it was an effort thing. It's a talent thing. What was revealed, we've played Dallas for 8 quarters now, and what has been revealed is that this is not a good football team. That when they play, the Bucs were struggling when they came in and we beat them. Okay, so the Bucs were not the Bucs of the Super Bowl champions and kind of Brady having all his weapons. Too. This is a bad football team, and this is a not talented football team. That if you have a bad football team, it's either because you don't have talent, you don't have scheme, or you don't have effort. And so I don't think it's an effort thing, and I think it rarely is an effort thing. I mean, I think unless you're Albert Hainsworth.
I think in general with professionals, effort isn't going to be the issue.
Exactly. I mean, everybody's got pride. They want to win. They obviously want to get paid, so you want to play good. I don't think it's an effort thing. I don't think it's a scheme thing. I think Scott Turner dials up the plays that he thinks are going to work, and they do their homework. And I haven't seen anything schematically that would trouble me. It's a pure talent thing. I mean, you just said we know what Taylor is. This is when you have a backup quarterback, is being asked to play 16, 17 games in a season, this is what you're going to get. Taylor will be great for a game or two. That's what a backup quarterback's supposed to do. It's supposed to come in and spell the starting quarterback if he goes down for an injury, for a game, 2 games, 3 games at the max. This is what he is, a backup quarterback. Now, Terry McLaurin is fine, but when he is across from Trayvon Diggs, that's it. Game over. I don't want to hear anything about Terry McLaurin. There is a talent gap. Trayvon Diggs greater than Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin looks small next to Trayvon Diggs. Terry McLaurin is not
small,
a little guy.
but you can be small and success. Like Chad Ochocinco was not a big receiver. Theo was huge,
was like that,
but Chad wasn't, right? And but quarterback play matters here too, Stevie. And not having a legitimate second option on the field is a big deal. Like De'Ami Brown it says a lot that De'Ami Brown had his best game as a pro in a game where 5 passes were completed.
He had that one catch over Trayvon Diggs, which was pure luck.
Sure.
And I don't know how Trayvon missed that.
I don't want to make this about Trayvon. I'm talking specifically about Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's not he is the best offensive player on the team, but he has no help, right? I mean, and I hate to do the what if. Well, what if Logan is healthy? What if Samuel actually, what if Curtis actually plays, a complete game and is doing what he's supposed to do? There's a lot of what ifs. But Terry, just from I want him here. But if you're telling me that I have an opportunity to, which we don't, but if Washington had a legitimate opportunity to trade any player on the roster for a franchise quarterback or some collection of picks and players, they have to do it. I don't trust this team to draft a quarterback because they swung and missed on the last one and
so
the one
what's
before
the point of the draft picks then? So then what's the point of trading?
I'm saying trade them away. Trade him away. If you can get, like, you see what someone like Matt Stafford is doing, right? Stafford, you move him from where he's performing at an above average level and then put him into a competent offensive system with legitimate weapons around him. He's an all pro. Matt Stafford will never get the credit he deserves for being the arm that got Calvin Johnson to the best receiving season in history of the league. And right now we're watching Cooper Kupp. I think I know there's an extra game, but Cooper Kupp he's going to surpass that record by Calvin probably this week. Stafford is the guy behind both of those, right? So like when you have the right guy, it's not enough just to have the right guy. You have to have the right system as well. And again, I don't like, we can go back in time and pretend, but what if McVay had stayed and Kirk? Would this offense look different? Would the team be different? Unfortunately, none of that stuff matters, right? Exactly. It's a waste of time. None of that stuff matters at this point. But I don't trust this team to draft, Stevie. I don't trust them to go grab a quarterback in the early round or at any point. I just don't trust them. And I don't think you can the question that has been burning a hole in my head is, does this team look different? Forget about record. But do they look different? Are they more competitive with someone like Fitzpatrick under center for the duration of the season? I'm not talking specifically about record, because that's a different argument. I'm saying would we know more about Terry McLaurin with a guy like Fitz under center?
Well, I think they'd be nominally more competitive. The question is, what does Ryan Fitzpatrick do for a defense that allows 500 yards of offense to the Cowboys? I mean, when you go back to the draft,
1,000 yards to the Cowboys in the span of 3 or whatever between the Eagles, Cowboys, yeah.
That you go right there. I mean, that's the crazy part of that. If you go back to my initial premise of talent, scheme, effort, then you look at that defense. The defense is talented, theoretically, right? 4 number 1 draft picks. I know obviously Chase Young's out, but the defense has talent on it. Scheme, you assume Jack Del Rio is a good defensive coordinator. Maybe it's effort on that side. Maybe they're spending too much effort slugging each other on the sidelines. Maybe it's effort on the defensive side. What is very clear is there's a dysfunctional situation. And
do you think Ron has lost the locker room? Do you think he's lost the team?
No. I don't think number one, I don't think he's deserved.
That's a terrible
to lose
loss. They were flirting with one of the worst losses in the history of the league. 59-0 is the worst loss ever in the league. They were not that far off that, Stevie.
Joe, I mean, this is not peewee football. These are all grown men who are expected to provide, the best effort possible. I think Ron Rivera's done nothing deserving to lose the locker room. If anything, what Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne did, it just shows a lack of discipline. Just shows, these guys need to police themselves, take some responsibility for themselves. It's so easy to blame the coach. Honestly, truthfully, I hate the whole fire Rivera, fire the head coach after these things. It's so easy to do that. It's such a cop out. Nothing changes when you do that. It's so easy to get rid of middle management, right? And when you talk about business,
well, yeah,
right?
the problem is rarely middle management, right?
It's always at the top, and it's
always at the top.
There's
no such thing as organizational change that starts from the bottom up. That's called a coup or chaos.
But what I will say that's probably not a popular sentiment is this is not a Snyder thing either. I think Dan Snyder gets blamed for things that he has nothing to do with. The benches. Did you think he really flew the benches out? No, of course he didn't do that. There's some idiot staffer who's trying to.
No, I disagree, Stevie. Snyder's the only one petty enough to demand that because Jerry did it, he's going to do it.
No, see, you're believing that narrative that we just assume.
Why would Jason Wright or Ron or anyone else care about the benches? No one else would be that petty. We're talking about Dan Snyder, right? The guy who wouldn't pay Bruce's pay out. Like, he wouldn't pay him until he sent them a text message to congratulate him about hiring Ron. We're talking about that guy.
I do not believe the owner of the team had any hand in the benches or any of that nonsense. I think Dan Snyder's been blamed. Well, maybe Tanya did it. But listen, I think Snyder's been blamed for certain draft picks that he had nothing to do with. And
like
again,
Haskins?
I know the RG3. I know the RG3 Haskins. And I know the Haskins. But I think there are other areas that he's been blamed for that he had nothing. I think it's so easy when we don't know what happened to say Dan Snyder did it. That I think is a cop out. I'm defending Dan Snyder. What the hell?
I know. What does the world come to? This is gonna. I can already tell you this will be the least popular segment we've ever done. With people are not gonna be happy to hear this.
I'll just blame it on the COVID.
Fine, yeah, COVID fried his brain apparently because he's coming to the defense of Snyder. But I'm not believing that anyone else in that building cares enough about the benches to make us think about it. And it only happens after Jerry sends his benches here. And then Snyder's like, well, I'm going to send my benches to Philly, and then I'm going to send them to Dallas. And the whole, it looks terrible. Not to mention that they lost in very, very discouraging fashion, both of those games as well. You just kind of pile on. There's rumors actually circulating. I don't know if you heard this one, Stevie, but there's rumors circulating that the new name will likely be announced within the next 10 days. And that could be just a marketing thing or an attempt to deflect away from the negative. Every time they lose, something happens, right? Something, quick, tell them, get the fans to stop talking about how terrible the team is, right? Distract, abort.
Yeah, what like homecoming game can we put on? What tribute can we do for a fallen Redskin or whatever?
Right, exactly.
It's pathetic. I mean, it's really pathetic.
What's pathetic, and I'll say this. What is pathetic of me right now is I'm sitting here still trying to do the advanced calculus of how a 6-9 team can still make the playoffs, which they mathematically can.
That's pathetic.
I mean, there's a way to do it, and Razzle had the playoff machine up a couple days ago and was going through it with me, but it's possible. But we definitely lost the 8.5 bet, the 8.5 win bet, right? I mean, that's over. Because the best they can do now is going to be 8-9, so they can't get to 500. They're gonna have a losing record to end the season here. It's just a question of how bad that what that record will actually look like. And before we move completely off of that Sunday topic or the Sunday game, Steve, I do want to talk about the Cowboys for a second here because this team early in the season looked like they were amazing. I mean, they looked like they had firepower, offensive firepower. Defensively, they looked like they had it all figured out. The draft capital that they expended on the defensive side of the ball, specifically because on the offensive side of the ball, they had traded for Amari Cooper. They drafted CeeDee Lamb. They were able to get and then keep Michael Gallup. They have Zeke, who may or may not be, the answer for them long term. They have Tony Pollard. So, like, offensively, they always had the pieces. They invested through the draft and got, guys like Micah Parsons, Trayvon, you've named them, right? The Cowboys started the season one way and then kind of hit a lull just as the Washingtons were kind of peaking, and it made things interesting for a couple of weeks. But based on what you've seen from the Cowboys now, just against the Washingtons, but also the larger outlook. I mean, the Cowboys really should be challenging for more than just a playoff seat and maybe a one game or a one victory in the playoffs. If they play defense the way they have been playing defense, I mean, could they not upset a team like the Packers in the NFC?
I mean, would it really be an upset at this point? I mean, you know better than anyone, Joe. I mean, we watch football for years. The best team doesn't win the Super Bowl. It's the hottest team that wins the Super Bowl. And it's about who gets hot at the right time. And Dallas right now is a complete, in the same way that Washington is a complete disaster from every offense, defense, special teams, every aspect, talent, scheme, effort. Dallas has put it all together as a complete football team. And that offensive line is incredible. I mean, they're mauling people. I mean, when you can put a performance like that with your best player, Tyron Smith, out, that's incredible. I mean, what that offense is doing when you have Zeke and then you can go to Tony Pollard and kind of switch it up. It's huge. And then you have the weapons that you just named on the outside. It's a complete football team when you have defense that,
they have 3 almost number 1 level receivers and an up and coming tight end, 2 serviceable running backs, a quarterback who doesn't make Dak doesn't make mistakes. You can say what you want about his decision making, but he doesn't make mistakes.
He's a playmaker. I mean, he's a playmaker. And you look at that defensive line, and obviously they've gotten healthy now with Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence. 2 of those 2 separate defensive linemen made 2 of the most athletic plays in those 2 games against us. And then you got, that backside with Diggs and Micah Parsons being otherworldly. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's an upset. I mean, certainly they should be competing with Green Bay and Tampa. And I mean,
Tampa, I'm not big on Tampa anymore. I'm just not. I feel like something.
And you're not big on Arizona anymore. So really, you're talking about the Packers and Cowboys.
Well, but like you said, it's the hottest team, and I think the Rams still could get hot. The Rams, they're another team that I can't quite figure out. And Razzle's been on them all season. They don't run the ball very effectively, but they have the best wide receiver in football, statistically anyway, in Cooper Kupp. They have a quarterback who can sling it, with the best of them. But he's also made some.
You trust Stafford, really?
I mean, trust him to do what? Trust him to not
to
lose
win
a
multiple
game?
playoff games? No, win multiple playoff games.
No, I mean, because he's never done it, right? So until you do it, you can't be full. I mean, and he does weird things too, where he comes out and like, I don't know if you watched their last game, but it just looked like OBJ got in his ear. Yeah, it looked like OBJ got in his ear, like in the tunnel coming out from halftime, and was just like, just throw it deep. And Matt didn't really look. He just snapped the ball and threw it deep, and it was an interception. So, like, we saw the same type of play from Taylor Heineke on, to be very honest, on Sunday night, where it just looked like, the scripted play, no matter what, we're going to throw it to Terry and try to get it there. The ball's underthrown, and it gets picked off, and it puts us on a path where the game is not competitive moving forward. So Stafford still does stuff like that, and I think Odell Beckham, because of the cachet he carries, is still forcing or putting him into some difficult spots from time to time. But I think McVay is a good coach and can figure out how that team can be successful. But the Cardinals are going the other way. That really leaves the Packers atop the NFC, and Tampa's an interesting team too. Like I feel like Brady got older all of a sudden. There's some times where I just feel like all of a sudden things are
3 weapons. That's what happens when you lose your top 3 receivers. You lose your running back. I mean, yeah, when you're ransacked with injuries, that's what's going to happen. So yeah, Brady didn't get older. He, they're injury riddled. I mean, I guess at this point with COVID, the question is going to be who's going to be COVID free going into the playoffs.
Yes, I agree. And the league had to change its position. I don't know how you feel about that too, but they had to make a change because you can't just keep swiping or doing nose swabs of people that are vaccinated, because the more you test, and in the infamous words of Donald Trump, the more you test, the more positives you're going to get, right? So like there is something to be said about that. But if you're vaxxed and boosted or whatever, and you're asymptomatic, like you can't just keep testing people. Like the competitive advantage, unless you're going to test, you got to test everybody or nobody, unless you're showing symptoms.
What's funny is the teams that'll be set up for success are the teams getting ransacked with COVID right now.
Yeah, because they'll get them back. Yes,
these guys will be fine, in a week or so, and certainly, speaking of injuries, on a tangent, Cam Akers, running back for the Rams, tore his Achilles about 4 weeks after yours truly tore his Achilles and is about to play a football game on Sunday. So congratulations to Cam Akers. Probably not the wisest decision of his career, but best of luck to him, because I could not imagine having playing any contact sport at this moment in time, 6 months after an Achilles tear.
Why is he doing it?
I think he's doing it to get paid. I think there's something in his contract where if he
can't be 100%. It's not possible.
It's not possible. It is a 12 to 18 month injury. I don't care who you are. I mean, KD, it was a 12-month injury, and he's a freak.
How long have you been out?
Steve Mesa he's close to 6 months. I'll be ready. I'll be ready for you come March, Joe.
I don't know what we're doing, but okay, I'll be ready too.
You find a basketball court, I'll be ready.
I got one in the backyard. You always say that, but listen, unless you show up with actual shoes, I'm not playing with you, because you keep wearing all those fancy finger booty things.
Those are remnants of the past, brother. Okay, we're coming back. Comeback's greater than the setback.
Yeah, get you some jump soles, something to help you get off the ground a little bit, like our boy Pat. Have you seen Pat recently?
You know what? We got to give a shout out to our English brother. Okay, I missed that guy.
Pat escaped America about 12 years ago. Went to live in nowhere, England, but still very active.
He's living back in 12 years ago. I love it. Okay.
Every time I talk to him, the guy just wants a big bite from 7-Eleven. He wants to be a FedEx a big bite to him. Can't get any decent food in the UK. That's the problem.
Pat, get vaccinated and get your butt over here to the US. Okay.
sounds like we got a throwback basketball game. In no cameras in the springtime. No cameras. Stevie, I only have one other topic I wanted to touch on. We kind of got into it a little bit, as far as like the teams to watch moving forward. I don't want to do it necessarily a top 5, low 5, but I mean, all the football teams being considered, everything that's happening, the COVID, everything, when you factor it all in, how confident are you that we're going to see, at the end of it, the two best teams come out of it? I think COVID is going to wreck some of that. And where are you on the Colts? I just wanted to get your give me your quick read on the Colts, because the Colts to me are, if Wentz and it just keeps kind of doing what he's doing, which is not make mistakes, that team can play defense. That team can run the ball. That team is got, an MVP candidate that should be considered more openly and widely for MVP. Jonathan Taylor's doing some things that have never been done before. Where are you on the Colts? Because I feel like in the AFC, the NFC, I think it's going to be Cowboys, Packers, maybe Rams, maybe Tampa. Like I think that's kind of your top 4. We'll see what Arizona does as well. 49ers are peaking at the right time too. So it's kind of clear, but the AFC, the Patriots are better are worse than their record. The Bills are probably slightly better than their record, although the wheels have come off there too. It's teams like the Colts that I don't really have a read on. I mean, what do you see with the Colts?
I mean, what I will say, going back to the NFC, because I think you made actually a very good point for once, is that Rams team is, from a talent perspective, they're the team to watch, in the sense of, if they get hot, they're the most talented team. Looking at it, they're the most talented team in the league, right? When you talk about the cornerback with Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, they are the most dominant players.
Von Miller. I mean,
exactly.
They're stacked.
So if they can get hot, they're the most talented team in the league. They're they're the scariest team that I wouldn't want to play come January. But the Colts, Carson Wentz isn't just a game manager. I've always considered him a playmaker, somebody who can get out of the pocket, improvise, and make plays. And they're not just a good running team, Joe. They control games with their running attack, with their rushing attack. I mean, that's a recipe for success in January and will be, in February as well, is that defense. They're creating turnovers, which is obviously big come playoff time too. So T.Y. Hilton's able to stretch the field. That is a complete team.
He's out there with a walker at this point. But you're right. I mean, they don't make mistakes, and they play sound defense, and they are, the other team, honestly, that I can't get a read on are the Dolphins. First team in the history of the league to lose 7 and then win 7.
They suck.
I don't think you can say they suck. I mean, you don't win 7 straight when you suck. I don't think we suck. I don't think they're built for the postseason at all. And I think Tua is extremely overrated. I don't want him anywhere near the football team. For all those that are listening, that are going to bombard me with DMs about bring Tua to DC. No, thank you.
People are the worst. Is it overly simplistic to assume it's the Chiefs' conference to lose? I mean, the Ravens are a mess. Who knows when Lamar's going to come back? Assuming he'll come back this week. But
the only, I mean, there's a couple teams that I think could beat the Chiefs. I think the Bengals could beat the Chiefs. I think the Bengals have enough offensive firepower to hang with them, but I don't know if defensively they can slow down Mahomes in that offense. And the Colts, I mean, the Colts have shown that they can hang with just about any offense. I think it's circumstantial. Did the Chiefs lock up home field the whole way through?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
not yet.
If they have to go to Indy, maybe it's more of a toss-up. I think if anybody has to go to Kansas City, it's probably going to be Kansas City.
Well, and I think
the Titans are no good. I mean, unless Derrick Henry comes back in the exact form he left, I don't see how they're going to be competitive either.
And from a COVID perspective, the Chiefs are set up for success. They had their outbreak. Kelsey didn't play last week. Tyreek Hill went into COVID protocols. So I think it's the Chiefs' conference to lose. I think the NFC is a lot more competitive with the Cowboys, Packers, Bucks, Cardinals. I think there'll be some good playoff games there. Mm-hmm. And but I do think the Chiefs right now are the hottest team and the most talented team in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean they got right. They figured out whatever was wrong, and they're, to their credit, they're playing defense, and that's something they were not doing. The first 4 or 5 games of the season, they were a bottom 5 defense. They've been significantly better over the last 5 or 6 weeks, as have the Colts and the Packers as well. Joe Barry's got that defense playing some really good football.
The only negative about the Chiefs is Patrick Mahomes' brother.
But that's a huge negative.
It's a huge awful person.
I got one last topic and we'll go. We're 2 minutes on the clock here. Urban Meyer. Give me your thoughts about Urban Meyer. Did he deserve to be able to finish out the season? Like if he was in Washington, there's no way Dan would ever let somebody go in the middle of the season. Like Did
you just say that, Joe? Did you just say that?
I mean, yeah. I mean,
did we need to talk about Marty and Marty?
Well, that was at the end of the season.
Marty Schottenheimer?
Yeah, he finished 8-8 and then was fired. Remember, they started 0-5, and then they ran off 5. LeVar.
Wait.
Marty finished the season.
I thought he fired him after 0-5.
No, Schottenheimer finished the season at 8-8 and then didn't get a second one. Then the ball coach came in.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I'm just saying, Dan. I don't remember him firing anybody in the middle of a season.
How did Jim Fossil end up coaching our team?
I don't know. Is that when they had like the 3 guys that were coordinating every play? And we took like 60
Bill Sherman, Al Sherman,
of game penalties.
Is the bingo caller? Yeah,
they had the guy from Kansas City calling the other guy, and then radioing it in with 3 seconds. Everything was hurry up, even though they had 40 seconds between plays.
Hey.
The Urban Meyer thing for me, I was surprised that he was let go. I'm not surprised that he flamed out of the NFL, but to do it so fast, I'm pretty shocked. And I just can't get over how much money they potentially owe him if they lose their arbitration. I mean, they owe him upwards of $40 million.
As you can tell, I have no strong thoughts about Urban Meyer, so I'm trying to get us off topic. And speaking of old Redskin highlights, okay, I, being quarantined these last couple of days, have been on an old Redskin YouTube highlight.
Oh, tell me who you've been watching. Don't tell me RG3.
I started off in RG3 in 2012, and that was some magical stuff. Okay,
magic stuff.
But then as you move on, he gets more annoying and more annoying.
Did you do Sean Taylor highlights?
How you not gonna? You got to do 36-21 highlights.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, the penultimate, my favorite highlight reel, Clinton Portis from the U, 2004 to however long he played. I mean, he played many years. That's some beautiful, beautiful stuff. Okay, CP. He was an all-timer. And I'm telling you, man, from that first run, Tampa Bay Bucks,
60-yard touchdown.
64 yards to the house. Place going crazy.
If I'm not mistaken, that was Gibbs' first game of Gibbs 2.0.
I think it was his first play. It was his first play call. I assume they were on defense before that. But his first play call, CP, his first play as a Redskin, takes it to the house. Place goes wild, like electric. And just watching CP over the years, the way he turned himself. I mean, that guy came in. He came in as a scat back. This guy came in with speed in Denver. I mean, he was setting all kinds of right. But you look at him over the years, he bulked up, he put on some weight, he became a power guy. I mean, he powered us to the NFC division crown, I think in 2000.
He was an actual third down, 3 down back. I mean, he was also a pass catching option out of the back.
And he was a blocker. He was one of the best pass blockers the running back position has ever seen. I mean, talking about a complete back.
I can already tell I'm going to be wasting a ton of time moving forward just looking at highlights.
You ain't wasting. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch.
Where is Clinton Portis? We got to get him on the show. I'm going to work on that. Maybe he can come on and talk to us about. Maybe he can come on and talk to us about, what he sees around the league. Like I'm not so much interested in like putting him on the spot with like his take on the football team, like per se right now. I'm actually more curious to hear about like how the league has changed since he like. Will we ever see another 3 down back like that? I mean, Derrick Henry's probably the closest to it. Maybe.
I think CP would come on the show and say everybody's a bunch of pansies. Okay, he probably used some other words you might need to bleep out, but. I think ain't no running backs in the league like CP anymore. Okay, that guy, like you said, every down.
I mean, Zeke is unfortunately always hurt, just as a guy. I mean, Saquon maybe, but yeah.
If he comes back from that injury, I mean, he didn't look at this season, but I would love to talk to him about those old guys. Not the old guys. I don't want to age them, but you look at like Marshall Faulk and these guys. I mean, these were running backs. I mean, of course, you get into Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith. These guys were running back. Sean Alexander. I mean, they had the big shoulder pads. And they were still
LT's almost forgotten in this conversation. He shouldn't
LDT. Be. Okay, let's show some respect for LT. Okay. LDT.
I mean, okay, but even another three initial person, right? MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew was an animal. Like that whole crop of running backs was incredible.
We'll never see the position again like that. No, everybody's slinging at 60 yards. It's 3rd and goal on the 2, and they got 5 wide, and they're.
I can't. I literally lost track of how many 3rd and goals were from the 2 or 3 yard line were just pass plays, and also
freaking Brady ruined it for us.
I also think we're seeing a whole bunch. I don't know if you noticed this, but the whole league seems to be moving towards just go for it on 4th. There's been a huge shift towards it, right?
That's
the stats
a good
nerd
shift.
somewhere. Well, I agree. I'm just saying there's a lot more of it regularly, where they're calling it on a 3rd and long. They're not calling for a first. They're calling for, you need 7, try to get 4. We're going to go for it anyway, or try to get 5. So anyway, Stevie, any final thoughts as we go? And thank you for bringing up Clinton Portis, because I am going to spend quite a bit of time here after we post this, just watching some highlights.
And don't sleep on his brother from the U, number 89. Okay, he's got some good stuff. The Dallas Miracle.
What was his
Monday Night Miracle?
He had a persona that he did his interviews as. I got to go back and look. With the
I think it was the clown.
I got to go back and look. Don't
every week he would mix it up. He would dress up.
Yes. Towards the end, it got
we're never going to see anybody like CP. Okay, he's a legend.
Well, Cam Newton still dresses up, and that guy hasn't won a game in 4 years.
He's a fool. Clinton Portis never made it about himself. Okay, he did it, and it was a team thing, and the team loved it. That's very different than Cam. Cam's all about himself. Clinton Portis was a team.
And he had a coach that protected him from himself at times too.
Gibbs, man.
Gibbs was really good about making people available and not making them available. Like what we saw. I mean, how would Joe Gibbs have handled Duran and Jonathan Allen getting into it on the sideline? I don't want to speak for Ron, but it's hard to imagine that he wouldn't have run over there, injected himself in some way, sent them both to the locker room to figure it out. He would have done something. He wouldn't have just let them fester. And of course, with the way the world works now, the NBC cameras were just locked on him. And even, every time we come in from a commercial break, they just got cameras. Even if they're not next to each other, you could tell that they're still fuming. And I don't know. One problem at a time, Stevie. We got the Eagles this week, 6-9.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I think this is the last one before the new year. It's been an awesome 2021. Thank you to the Contender Network. That was probably the biggest thing to happen to the show. Yep. Lots of new things planned for 2022. And hopefully, let me see if I can get Clinton Portis on the show. I think he'd be awesome to chat with.
Let's do it, CP. Come on, let's go.
Anyway, Stevie, I hope you feel better. Happy New Year.
Thank you, brother.
Be well. We'll talk to you soon. His name is Stevie. My name is Joe. This is Defeating the Curse. We are available on all platforms, social media platforms, and podcast platforms. Just search for DTC or Defeating the Curse. We will be with you post-game on Sunday. Hopefully, the Washingtons can pull out a victory against the Eagles. We will stay tuned. We will find out, and we will discuss it afterwards. Let's put an end to Dallas week. Let's put an end to what was a somewhat rough couple of days here as we kind of move past that embarrassing performance on Sunday. But for now, thank you so much for hanging out with me and Stevie. These shows are our favorite. Thank you for checking out the show. Thanks for hanging with us. Until next time, we are